Fun. The final frontier. The one feeling to rule them all. The key to our defenseless baboon brains and most importantly, our wallets. Video games, just like many other products, have fought to the death with one objective in mind. Trying to outdo each other and have a larger slice of our increasingly dwindling attentions. But especially lately, they have been facing a tiny problem. Neurophysiology. That is to say, no matter how much you crank the dial of fun, at some point it will just be a new baseline, from which your older products will feel like they are missing something. It's clear that this progression in stimulation cannot go on like this much longer. At least not until Elon Musk opens a new frontier and exploiting the weakness of your flesh for money. For now though, video games remain a series of fast-moving pixels on the screen, and as such, there is only so much stimulation that can be derived from them. This is a big problem, because when your game is as fast, flashy, violent as it gets, any push beyond that might derail the experience. This is my main problem with the Doom Eternal DLC, for example. The base game is by far the best shooter I've ever played, but the DLC feels too much. Instead of feeling excited, by the end of some fights I was feeling numb, annoyed, dangerously close to thinking, thank god that's over. And for a game where combat is pretty much all you do, that's not good. I'm sure most of you will disagree with me on this, and feel free to call me a weak leaptard in the comments. However, you can probably imagine an Ancient Gods Part 3 or 4, which brings a whole new level of intensity to the table, derailing the experience as a result. Which brings me to the closest thing to Doom Eternal, a slow, grounded RPG.
Jesus Christ be praised.
The Kingdom Come games have always been interesting to me. On the surface, these games shouldn't appeal to me at all. I hate having my time wasted and dislike it when things take too long to do. A few short years ago I would look at drawn-out animations like this and deliberately extended fast travel as just padding. After all, if your game is so great, why don't you let me experience the fun part all of the time? Video Game Donkey puts it best in this video.
Just let me get to the fun part. They're so hesitant, so reluctant to let you just play the fucking game.
The Kingdom Come games are not only filled with what a past version of me would hate, but you get to experience them through the eyes of just an average guy. I mean, if I wanted to play as a nobody, I would just shut my computer down. Needless to say, I was shocked when I noticed that this is one of the most focused, enjoyable experiences in gaming that I've ever had, and can't wait to keep having once I'm done writing this video. Kingdom Come 2 proposes a not-so-obvious solution to the aforementioned problem of overstimulation. We take a step back from the constant fun and give the player an opportunity to be bored, frustrated, or even angry at the game. Because, to say it plainly, that's how you'd feel if you were there. You'd get beat up plenty of times before you learn how to handle a sword properly. You'd be caught plenty of times until you learn how to pickpocket somebody, and your dog would run away all the time if you hadn't learned how to train him. And even though this is a sequel, and Henry is supposed to be much stronger and better than in the first game, this game still quote-unquote suffers from the same affliction as other sequels, where you magically lose most of your abilities and have to work to get them back. Though, honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Alchemy illustrates this point perfectly. If you want to read the recipe, you must physically move to your book and physically flip the pages. Choose your base, pour it into the cauldron, put your herbs on the shelf, and then pick up the right amount to either pour it in, grind it, or put it back on the shelf, because your skill, as Simon says, is somewhere between a sea sponge and a starfish. Not to mention that gathering, drying, or traveling to merchants to get ingredients has their own unskippable animations and can make the experience much more frustrating. The sheer amount of resistance introduced into the process of making a single potion sounds almost like self-sabotage, or worse, padding. But paradoxically, this is where the magic happens. The fact that the potions are so hard to make makes you engage more deeply with the world, in both a mechanical sense and a visual one. You take pride in your potions, because you know how much of a headache it was to make them in the first place. This goes for pretty much every aspect of the game. You know how expensive repairing armor is, sometimes, or how inconvenient it is to heal yourself after taking too much damage. Again, sometimes. So naturally you'll want to practice fighting or even read a book or two about it. And after you find out how long that takes, you'll feel proud of your accomplishment of being a good fighter, which immerses you more into your character and the world. This connection continues to strengthen in the way quests are designed. They are almost never straightforward. Sometimes you have to sneak around as a character with low sneak rating, sometimes you have to fight, sometimes you have to talk your way through. Sometimes you get kidnapped by an insane knight who thinks he is defending the world of a demon invasion from where a mine used to be. Some quests will be to your ability, and some others won't. It's up to you then to work around your own deficiencies, using your own knowledge to improve your odds. For example, when asked to sneak into an enemy camp to steal some suspiciously oversized sausages from the quote-unquote king, I was a bit dumbstruck. As much as I wanted to help this lovable little commie in his goals, sneaking was just not something I had built my character around. After a bit of thinking and failing at it a few times, I learned the importance of using the cover of night, drinking potions and most of all, being naked. I also learned that when a lock is too much, maybe a guard nearby can help. Every problem has a solution for each type of player, and everything can be overcome by using a combination of planning and improvisation. This open-endedness to quests allows them to feel less like an exact pre-programmed series of events, but rather as problems you have to think about and solve, by engaging with the world as a real place and exploiting every advantage you have. Though, as you might imagine, there is a delicate balance to be had here. Even the most persistent players can only tolerate a certain amount of resistance before they lose their patience completely, and for a game this large, it's expected to slip up from time to time. I'm going to take the quest's magic arrow as an example. When starting this, I was desperate for money, as I was broke and needed some decent clothes to progress into the story. So when a group of bandits offered me a nice reward for what seemed to be like an easy task, I left aside my knightly obligations for a second and decided to listen. Their leader was killed and I was tasked with finding where his body was and retrieve an arrow from his corpse. And by corpse I mean skull, and by retrieve I mean, well... The bandits believed this arrow to be a magical artifact that would bring them luck in their future endeavors, only if, like their previous leader, the current one had it poking out of his head as well. Very convincing stuff, but more importantly, now I had my work cut out for me. Who cares if I have to kill all of them, I thought. The money must surely be in a chest here somewhere. So after a few shameful reloads, because I couldn't hit the stationary target apparently, I was able to deliver him from his mortal coil. His mates, shocked by the fact that arrows kill people, ran away in terror, and I was able to pick the camp clean. No money, but there was a chest there. Locked more tightly, I'm not going there. I can't unlock it right now, but I have an ace up my sleeve. Alcohol, the solution to all the problems. Specifically, the quick finger potion, which in theory should be able to bring me up to par. After a good back and forth to the city, I came back to the chest, lockpicked it, and... nothing. There was no money in it. Now it sounds funny to admit it, but I genuinely felt betrayed, as if I was lured into an ice cream van only to find out the only ice I was getting was the one that would store my organs.
I just have to step outside, let the breeze hit my face, appreciate nature.
The quest wasn't half bad either. In fact, looking back on it, I find the whole premise very amusing. But I was role-playing too hard. I was doing this solely because I needed the cash, and in the process I completely forgot to appreciate the quest as a reward in itself, which is what I would do in most games. This, as far as I'm concerned, is just the game suffering from its own success. A symptom of a won war, but a lost battle, if you will. That does happen a few times throughout the game, but nowhere near enough to make me lose trust in the potential long-term rewards I know it has in store for me. Now that we looked at an example of the game making things a bit too difficult for you, let's look at an example where the opposite happens. In the first map you may encounter a sword teacher NPC in the Nomad camp, and if you beat him, he can teach you the most powerful sword move in the whole game, the Master Strike. This is such a dramatic upgrade that every one-on-one fight becomes not a matter of if, but a matter of when you're going to win it. I'm not saying it's completely broken, by the way, not at all. You need to have your sword at the opposite side of the enemies, and if you ever try to attack from that side, you open yourself up for a strike. While if you simply wait and allow them to dictate the pace of the fight, you may get destroyed against groups. However, the Master Strike is such a breakthrough move that everything after it almost feels moot, like you have already reached the plateau for sword fighting. In the first game I remember it being an achievement to beat someone in a tournament at all, but here, in my first tournament, I was easily able to defeat a Master Swordsman and 2 of his students by just spamming the Master Strike over and over. This apparent oversight seems to go against the concept of resistance I outlined earlier, as you are getting a bit too much out of too little effort, which does feel a bit cheap, even though the aforementioned sword teacher is relatively out of the way, as I said. I personally would fix this by simply making the Master Strike accessible only on the second map of the game. For example, after you take over the sword fighting school for main hard in Kuttenberg. This would make for a positively wet player if they finish this long quest and have invested a good amount of time in training with swords. Now, you may be asking, why make a video about a game when you're going to focus so much on the ways it fails? And the answer is simple. If I were to be talking about the ways in which it succeeds, I would be listing almost every quest in the game. I'd be talking about how beautiful and dense the environments are, how this game made me sit down and actually read books about its world. Yes, I was here late at night reading books in my video game. I cannot tell you how big this is. There is no RPG in existence that has made me care about these books. No other RPG has just made me sort of sit there either. In a familiarly paradoxical fashion, it's the least action-packed moments that have the biggest impact on me. Galloping on the road, taking in the views and the music that took 2 people 4 years to compose, or even standing in the busy market in Kuttenberg. That's where the game cashes in all of the effort it took to immerse you. The controller melts away, and you really are there, an important nobody looking for his next adventure. Thanks for watching, and good night.